dreams, another black king down. Yellow tape on the scene. We grew up all nothing. We came up all hustling. How they hate it when they see a black man doing something. We survived off nothing. All we knew was the struggle. Mama always told me, boy, you gotta get out and hustle. This is true. This is true. We got our hands up. They still gon' shoot. This is true. This is true. This is true. This is true. We got our hands up. They still gon' shoot.
Slavery abolished civil rights in '64. If we all were free, then what are we fighting for? A world without fear, a world without shame, a world where children don't avoid eye contact to avoid being blamed for a crime they didn't commit in a city they've never been to visit. But imagine this. Sirens roar, you trigger an alarm. Wide and far, people come to protect you from harm. Those who abuse power are now being watched. Now they know the fear. Within moments, they're caught.
This is true. This is true. We got our hands up. They still gon' shoot. This is true. This is true. This is true. This is true. We got our hands up. They still gon' shoot. Hands up, don't shoot. God protect the ground. They hate us cause they want us bowing down. No, we never bow down. Just keep them hands up and stay prayed up. Faith in God we trust. United we stand, divided we fall. Late nights get put over. Ain't got no one to call. When my skin's up and down to they care enough. Can't judge a book by its cover. But when it comes to us, this is true. This is true. This is true. We got our hands up. They still gon' shoot. This is true. This is true. This is true. This is true. We got our hands up. They still gon' shoot.
Es verdad, hay gente que no quiere verme respirar. Es verdad, pues el color me quiere pisar. Si nos unimos la voz no se va a acabar. Y si hablamos claro la cosa se va a arreglar. No nos vamos a dejar, no vamos a tolerar. Se acaba toda la injusticia. Yo quiero ser libre, yo quiero ser libre. Si somos de alto calibre, de toda hora que Dios me libre. Don't get it twisted, no matter if Spanish or English. The targets are endless. This is where I draw the line. Being disrespected and harassed all the time. Can't even wear a hoodie when it's cold outside. Black and brown homies is what they want us to buy from the other side.
This is true. This is true. This is true. We got our hands up. They still gon' shoot. This is true. This is true. This is true. This is true. We got our hands up. They still gon' shoot.
Fear and paranoia no longer an excuse. Before they can act, we end the abuse. Until those with guns learn to act with grace, we watch their every move, we show up and we face the reality we live, the right to stop and search. But we change the game, strip their right to hurt. Families torn apart at the seams. If one man falls, we lose the entire army.
They still gon' shoot. This is true. This is true. This is true. We got our hands up. They still gon' shoot. This is true. This is true. This is true. This is true. We got our hands up. They still gon' shoot.
What's up? What's up? What's up? So it is now the 7 o'clock hour, and it's time to get rocking. However, today has been an emotional day. Today has been a historical day in these United States of America because today the Supreme Court decided that they were going to block the President of the United States from stopping DACA. And if you don't know what DACA is, that is a program, a document, an executive order that President Obama enacted to ensure that the children of illegal immigrants who are here, undocumented, they'll be okay. And that's all right. That's all right with me. So before we jump in, the first thing that came in my mind was this here. And I'm going to give you a little bit, and then we're going to jump right in. Because when I saw that, and then I look at everything that's going on around me, this is what came into my mind. One day, when the glory comes, it'll be ours. It'll be ours. Oh, one day, when the war is won, We will be sure. We will be sure. Oh, glory. And that's what it's about. It's about glory because for real, tonight, this is a millennial and Gen Z conversation, right? And this is getting ready to be magnificent because I have my sister, a multimedia personality here, and I just realized I have a former colleague's sibling here with me. So this is going to be interesting because for once, we're going to hear from a Gen Zer that's on the front line because this gentleman is on the front line. And I know that my sister and I have been fighting this battle for a long time. So tonight we are going to talk about the epidemic, which is black men killed at the hands of law enforcement. And we're going to talk about the pandemic, how African Americans are disproportionately targeted, even with COVID. But when we start to talk about privilege and guilt, it's going to take a different turn. Because if you look at each one of us, there's something significant about us. And we're not going to touch it right now, but you're going to know when it comes out. But when we talk about racism, we're going to talk about, stay tuned. All right, without further ado, I introduce and present to you Tracy Tyson and the Queen Bee of the DMV. What's up, y'all?
Hi, honey.
See, back then there could only be one popular
So look, let's just jump right in. So,
when there can be three.
Brittany, tell the viewers who you are and why this topic is so serious to you.
Okay, so who I am just outside of being like a media personality, I'm a person that or a young woman that grew up as the first black family in my neighborhood. My uncle was killed by the KKK when in 1970s, and somebody actually just recently published an article about what happened and how the gentleman who shot my uncle, plain as day, got tried but didn't go to jail. Um, and this was all because of my uncle apparently having, making a call, like a cat call to a group of like black women, but in passing there was a white woman and she presumed that it was her. So, you know, I'm definitely an advocate for the preservation of black men. I'm definitely an advocate for the community coming together and having those uncomfortable conversations, which I feel like is definitely a great thing in what you're doing, and definitely glad to be here to start. But my personal opinion on what's going on is there's so many different entities of what's going on that are actually simultaneously happening amongst this revolution that I feel as though I feel a little overwhelmed sometimes personally, because I feel as though it's just kind of like it's a lot of pressure kind of on everyone. It's one thing to go to the store and you just say hello, nice to meet you, thank you, appreciate you, you know what I mean, and you use mannerisms and kind gestures. But when we get to the thick of it, as far as what someone actually will kind of when we get to the way the system is used and the way that some people will use that against our culture and against our people, then that's where we have the issue. But the police brutality has been definitely a major concern, and I feel like it's a great start. But there's just there's so many other avenues that we have to fight for simultaneously. And I think that it's great that we have an awareness that's going on. However, I feel like the government is strategically moving forward with reopening the country in order to slow down the momentum of the revolution. And, I don't know, but, recently in Seattle, I was just looking that they had, created their own little place or town, and they're not even claiming that it's a part of the USA. So it's like the world is crazy. You have government and politicians on social media right now that are actually, they're like not giving a shit about Donald Trump and what he thinks and what he feels. And it's like, yes, that energy is needed. However, that distress to the world is out there, and we are looking very weak as a country. We are looking very vulnerable, and
Absolutely.
I think that as a military brat, it's like you think about how all of the different sections are broken down, and then you think about the man that's in power, and you think about how he can abuse that. And even Joe Biden has to say prematurely before he even finalizes being the primary Democratic nominee. Like, he even announces that Donald Trump will be having, he will have military force used against him to get him out of the office if he is not elected president. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you already have these preconceived notions of what may happen because of someone's attitude and what someone's behavior is like, and then that trickles down from top of the food chain of the government. That trickles down all the way to the homeless man on the street, because the relation of how everybody is actually connected is the power that we have, and they know that. So when you have this negative energy trickle down, it breaks those bonds, it breaks those barriers that we are building, those strengths that we're gaining ground on, and it slows us down, just like it slows the judicial system, just like how they slow down certain appeals when there's hardcore evidence, or just like Breonna Taylor's officers not getting arrested, but they passed a new law saying that the chokehold and and the no warrant, the no knock warrant is illegal. You know what I mean? So it's like, how do you enforce a law without arresting the individual that was a part of the creation of why this is even an issue, why this is even a topic? So I feel like, again, with me just hitting those topics, we are everywhere, but it's necessary, and what's actually being said is not enough.
Ah, okay, let's plug that. Let's plug that. And thank you so much, Brittany. And I think if someone has a TV on in the background, we might have to mute it. Um, but I think that where we are now, and she made some valid points. So we're gonna plug it, but let's talk about that. Let's talk about why we keep putting band-aids on things. Because see, this is what I see. What I see that we do in these United States of America is that we get cut. We get cut, we bleed, we clot the blood with some alcohol peroxide or whatever. We let the air dry it. We put a band-aid on it, right? But we're really not treating the wound daily to make sure that the inside is healing. See, we're only covering the wound, we're not healing it. So, Tracy, tell me a little bit about why this topic is so passionate for you.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. I can say just personally, being a young black man, kind of just every day leaving your house. You know what I mean? That's a thought process that goes through your mind. Uh, Growing up as a little kid, you don't really notice that kind of thing. You watch TV, and you might think, I want to be a police officer. I know when I was a kid, Ice-T was a police officer. You know what I mean, on TV. So I thought it was something cool to do. And then you get to a teenager, and when I was a teenager, 2010, 2011, and you got police stopping you just because you look a certain way or this or that. And I'm on my way to school, or I just came from school. We just came from a team practice somewhere doing something positive, but they don't really see that. And now being in my mid 20s, still, I mean, I've not too long ago I had dreadlocks. You see the tattoos, and that wasn't an easy road, just going to work or coming from work or going to the store to get something to eat. So definitely, it's a passion to me just because I have to live it every day.
Wow. And so it's interesting that you say, you have the dreads, you have the tattoos, because someone made a comment yesterday that I see them in the stores buying food that I can't afford to buy with their food stamps. And I thought to myself, what do people look like that wear food stamps, that have food stamps? And so I thought about myself, right? I said, well, to other people, I might look like somebody that's buying food with food stamps, right? You may look like the boyfriend of somebody that's buying food with food stamps. So society says, right? And so when you made that statement about your tattoos and dreads and getting stopped, I get it, right? But the question is, what is it that we can do, if anything, to change this narrative? Because we keep talking about it, right? And we have to have conversations. But I think the issue is we keep having these conversations, but for some reason, we're not coming up with tangible solutions, right? We're not coming up with things that we can really make concrete other than riots, protests, and then you have counter protesters who seemingly look nothing like those of us that are trying to get something accomplished. But media and Photoshop and video editors are so brilliant that we can create any narrative that we want, right? And so I have to think, I have to wonder, what is the real deal? Who is the real enemy? What is the real issue? And that brings me to, is it racism or is it the abuse of power? And so, Tracy, I want to come back to you for that. With everything we see going on, with the violence, with especially, I think that we definitely gonna always remember George Floyd. But I think Rashard Brooks is an interesting story because it has really made me have to put on the criminal justice cap and really take it back to my law enforcement days and be like, all right, I get it, but I don't. And I'm not going to plug it now because, Tracy, I want you to talk and speak to that because you've been out there on the front lines here in Richmond, Virginia. Shout out to Tracy, y'all. When I tell you this young man has been doing the daggone thing here in our capital city, I'm so proud. I'm like a proud big sister. I used to work with his sister, just found out as a sister, but I can see it all in his face, but I'm proud. So that's what it is. It's about the village. So you are my little brother, and I'm so proud of you. But speak to that. Speak to your protest experience, but also speak to what you've witnessed while you were out there.
Yeah, sure. First, I want to say thank you for that. But definitely being out there, you see a kind of a multitude of things, right? So I want to say, first of all, I don't want to take too much praise or anything like that. There were plenty of other young people that were leading the charge, that were speaking on megaphones and microphones. For the most I did, I helped a couple people hold some signs. I led a few chants, and I walked definitely a few miles, but I didn't. I don't want to act like I was out there, leading the charge or whatever the case may be. But definitely, plenty of good people that were out there, peaceful protesters, just wanted to get a point across, and we kept going out there every day, and we really wanted to get that point across till the legislation came through. And you kind of see so many different things because you would come out there early in the day and the sun is shining, and like I said, everybody's kind of walking and chanting, and everything is peaceful. People are passing out water and so on. But then the night kind of falls, right? So I was there the first night. I pulled up to the protest the first night, me and my big cousin, and we got there, and like I said, everything was calmer at first. As the night progressed, it did get a little bit more rowdy, right? So from there, you start to see, as you say, some different kind of people that don't necessarily look the way we look, doing certain things, spray painting this or breaking this or breaking into that. And but when you kind of surround yourself with the correct people, you don't necessarily get too involved in those things or get even too you don't even get to witness too much of it, to be fair, right? So I spent a lot of my time really out on the front lines. I was speaking directly to police officers. I was right there with the guys trying to hold the line to make sure they don't get too far. But then at the same time, once they started spraying the tear gas and dropping our pepper spray, that's when or vice versa. But that's when some of the protesters or maybe even rioters at that point, because you get so mixed up into trying to get away or trying to get that way, whatever the case may be, that's when they ended up setting the car on fire. And at that point, when you're out there, you feel the energy, and you feel the almost warlike presence that there is. And I would never take lost valor, but coming from a military academy and then having being a military brat for my family, and then having plenty of friends for that military academy that went on to the military, you kind of see that those guys are dressed for war already. They're already prepared to go into war. And a lot of people that came out, even like I said on that first night, aren't prepared for war, right? So when that happens, those who may get triggered, and you never know what any of those people are thinking when they go out there, right? You don't know every single person that's going out to a protest, so you don't know what they may have been through or what's going on in their brain. So you do something like that, and that kind of act of aggression, you have no idea how they're going to react. I heard somebody say you can't really necessarily blame someone for how they react, but at the same time, I've also heard a quote where you have to assess the way that you react to situations and the way that you react to being disrespected, right? So things can go a lot of different ways. But even from there, a few days later, I was actually at the protest that ended up being on the news, and they where the tear gas was sprayed out on this peaceful protesters 20, 30 minutes before curfew. Was standing right there. It was 7:36 or something like that. I had just looked at my phone. I was there with another friend. She had drove miles to come out to the protest, and that's another thing too. She was there with a friend as well. And just to bring my other point back about there being other people that didn't look like us, not every one of those people were there to incite violence and be a problem. Because the friend she had there, uh, he was he was white, and he was homosexual, and he was there to help us and be a part of our situation and truly and really believe in what we were doing. So to stand there beside both of them, and we were both, everybody was somebody speaking. They were standing over by the monument. Somebody speaking. I was a soldier actually that was speaking, and a soldier that had done tours in combat. Right, he had fought for this country, a black man, and I was speaking, and out of nowhere, right, I look up, and I'm laughing about it now. I wasn't laughing at the time, but I look up and just see the tear gas canister coming down. So I grab her, I grab her friend. So we start bailing out of there. So they end up having to cut. They went away. I went away. I ended up getting gassed a little bit later, right after that. So I'm just happy I got them out of there. And I got to my car, and I was fine. But there were plenty of people who didn't see it coming as fast, or maybe hadn't been out there as many times, or whatever the case may have been. And they seeing videos, because you don't really see everything that's going on while you're out there. So seeing videos of what was happening on the other places the other places I wasn't standing. That was really kind of what threw me off, because you see the people were getting pepper sprayed straight in their face, or the people that the gas was hitting them straight in their face, and you're like, I'm so happy. You feel gratitude that you were able to get away from that, but you also feel the pain and the hurt, because you were right there with those people, and you want to be able to help them, or just wish that they had never been in that situation in the first place, especially since everyone still had 20, 30 minutes to get home. And the messed up thing about it to me is that most of us, at least I'll say, were maybe getting ready to go home. They were wrapping up. The guys on the megaphones were saying, we're passing out information or telling where you could go get information to be a part of the movement, continue to come out for the 381. I don't know if I'm allowed to plug that, but I'm going to go ahead and do it, because those guys are doing it. They are
Plug
leading the
it.
movement,
Whatever
not
you
me.
need to plug
Not
it.
me. So they're doing their thing. Definitely follow them. They're doing their thing. I wasn't leading the movement. Those brothers and sisters are definitely out there handling business. But yeah, so they were telling people where to get information, and we're pretty much wrapping up. I'm pretty sure there were going to be a few people out. As you can see, nobody really listened to curfew anyway once it really got started. So
Right.
I'm pretty sure there were going to be people out. But it seemed as if the mass majority of people, though, were maybe getting ready to go home or go somewhere else, or maybe just break off, if anything else. And they kind of incited that on themselves, right? And and just like I said, that friend that I had that came down, she was telling me about what her friend had said in his experience, being a Caucasian man and being a homosexual as well, just being there and having and wanting to fight for us. And he was so peaceful and so just happy to be there. And well, you know what I mean, not happy, but happy to be a part of the situation. And he said after that experience, he kind of felt the rage a little bit too. I'm pretty sure he didn't. He's a law-abiding citizen. I'm pretty sure he didn't do anything crazy, but he was feeling a little bit of energy too. But that's what I'm saying. So like being out there, you understand why a few people might be burning this or doing that, even if you're not the one doing it. But you also don't want any innocent businesses to get hurt or innocent people to get hurt. That's not the goal, right? But yeah, it goes a lot of different ways.
Wow. So I heard so many different things, and Brittany, I'm gonna, come to you in a second. But one of the things I want to touch on is you said, you weren't one of the leaders. Yes, you were. See, this is for everybody viewing. We have to stop looking at the people on the front line and the people whose names are in the lights as the leaders. Because what happens is we put these people on pedestals and then their agenda changes to the self agenda. So there's a reason why you're here, Tracy, and not the individuals that you deem as a leader. Because to me, you are a leader because you supported the organization, the production, the development, and the execution of the plan. See, holding those microphones and holding those signs, that's a part of the execution. And that's something that I had to learn. And as you were sitting here talking about the tear gas canister, I heard my mother, and y'all know out there in media land, y'all know who Betty Lou is. That's my mama. She's 81 years old, which means what? She absolutely walked with Dr. King, literally walked with Dr. King in the brutal streets of Danville, Virginia in 63. Bloody Monday, she was there. So when you talked about that canister, I thought about dogs and fire trucks with water hoses being sicked on my mother. I thought about my mother running from the courthouse back to our home church, which was the civil rights headquarters back then. So the issue and the difference is, like she said, Lil, y'all are fighting for rights that we had to fight for that y'all already supposed to have. So Tracy, you are a leader. You are an executor in the plan to change what is going on. Virginia is a hard place. Because see, the reality is Virginia has 4 different cultures. You have Southwest, you got that South Central, you have the Eastern Shore, and you have Northern Virginia. See, I grew up in Southwest, South Central. I know what it's like. But the interesting thing is that we also have to address this thing called selective racism, right? It's the racism that you only get subjected to if you are an impoverished African American. It's the racism that you get subjected to if you don't receive something higher than a master's degree. Those are the things that we don't address. That is the reason why I proudly wear all Black Lives Matter. Because my brothers and sisters that didn't make it out of high school, because they weren't able to be the system that was already set up to disenfranchise. Their life matters just like mine. So Brittany, I come to you because you're in Baltimore, and that's a whole different beast. What is it that you feel is your duty in Baltimore as a multimedia personality, but also as somebody that's very vocal? Because Brittany can get lit. So what are you doing?
For me and my vocal ability and where the placement of it needs to go isn't so much within action, because there's a lot of things that are closed right now. So when the state reopens, like my thing, it comes to one actual solution, and that is for everyone to educate themselves with the judicial system. And I'm talking about from all levels and high levels. And you can tell that that's the subliminal message that I think some of the media personalities and the celebrities and the comedians like Dave Chappelle and Like Ellen DeGeneres and, people that have a strong influence of unbiasedness, you'll see these individuals in their day-to-day work, insert, you know, little messages of letting us know what we should actually really be doing because they see the truth. And I feel like if we are able to have the conversations to the left of us and to the right of us, then that's the start. But like I said, there's no one simple answer to this. Like, I know that within my household, and I know that within my family, I know that the conversations have been had. I know that we are all active participants when it comes to registering, and when it comes to getting people to register to vote, because we're registered ourselves. But then not only that, like, we actually go in and break down, like, okay, well, who are the Black judges? Who are the Black officials that are running? Like, I think that one of the biggest things that Black people don't do is we do not focus on who the individuals in office are. And people get upset because they always want to talk about, oh, it's the same people in office. Well, yeah, and it's the same people not voting these people out. Because, like, I don't think that people understand that that's how the system works. And it's like, nobody is saying that you have to conform to it, because if you choose to completely stay out of it, then that's your business. But if you're complaining, if you want a solution and anything in between, the resolution is to become active. Like, literally, me and I'm actually in New York right now. Me and my best friend, we were having a conversation today, and I asked her, I said, how long does it take to get a law degree? And she said about 3 years. And I'm like, okay. And then, like, in the state of California, if you're an actual citizen, a resident of California, you don't have to go to law school to take the bar. So,
You can study under a lawyer.
I'm 32. By the time I'm 40, I'm going to have a plan that is going to be executed. I love that you use the word executed. So for me, I know that I've been a very active participant all the way from college, from the first days that I was able to vote. I went to vote my very first time with my mother. My family, especially because we came from the Navy, Marines, and Army. So it's like, my family has definitely been, proud of the makings of what they've become in this country for the betterment of our family. But it's like I said, it's just not enough. So I think that we have to honestly take the level of seriousness. Like, I can't remember his name off top, but the young gentleman that just got, he was 20 years old and he was like city councilman, or, like 8th district. And then he's 24 and he's already, infiltrating the judicial system. And it's a young Black man. And I feel like those are the examples that have to be shared. So within my media and control, immediately, I just put out any information that I feel like can exercise someone's mind to expanding of their possibilities and opportunities, because Black men today, they have so much hope that's been taken from them. They have so much, just so much confidence that's been taken from them. So it's like, you have to give them pieces. You have to give them pictures, because you can talk about it all day, but if they don't see it, they're not going to believe it. If they don't know anybody that's about it, they're not going to believe it. You can't tell them that if they walk out their front door, that their environment is going to change just because of this one picture. So it's like, don't get it twisted. There has to be action behind that. But when you speak action, when you speak powerful words, when you speak strength, when you speak connectivity, when you speak education into people, and when you spread those conversations, and I'm talking about having the conversations where somebody shares their viewpoint, like, I don't want to vote, and you just sit there and listen, and you listen to what it is that they're upset about, because we have to make incremental moves of getting people to the same common place. And so that means that in every conversation has to be touched. So for me, my due diligence right now is to make sure that the conversations are being had at all levels. Like, when my job calls me to come back to work, I'm gonna say, and in what motion do you have and for taken or put in place for our employees and staff members to understand that, this is the safety of all people, because I'm not going to tolerate any type of, I'm not going to tolerate the same commentary that I was getting from my general manager. You know what I'm saying? That's not for me. That's not who I am. I took it for a very long time. If you come at me with a form of respect, then I can come at you with a form of respect. And then I'm talking about having conversations outside of our race, because whether people want to talk about it or not, I mean, and it's visual proof just in what's been in social media lately anyway, is that all nationalities all over the country and all over the world are in support of this, especially all people of color. So, I don't want to hear conversations of division. I don't want to hear conversations of separation. I don't want to hear conversations of what if and but this. And I experienced that. It's 2020 and it's June. You know what I mean? It's June 18th or whatever the day is. I lose track all the time. But you know what I mean? It's June of 2020. We cannot talk about what happened last year in a sense of just bringing it up to be mad about it. You know what I mean? Like, and then, people are taking the Black Lives Matter movement and then they're losing focus. They're going back to their regular lives, or they're trying to, orchestrate it in the conversation to making it negative, like going into colorism. Listen here. Colorism is not just about your skin color. Colorism is about the culture. It's about your attitude. It's about our heritage. It's about our love. It's about our education. It's about all the inventions we have. That is colorism. It affects us in ways deeper than just our skin. Our skin is powerful. That's the reason why it's a target. That's the reason why it's under attack. And if we don't understand that the preservation of men and women, black men and black women, melanated men and women coming together like the Hispanic culture practices very strongly, then we are not going to persevere. We're not going to be dominant. We're not going to come together, and we're not going to be able to move forward in an entity. And we're going to have the same repetition. And what's going to end up happening is destruction, because people are tired and they're going to run out of money. They're going to run out of, we have, like you said, the pandemic that's coming into play too. So while all of this is coming on, see, these changes are helping Black people get better jobs. These changes are helping Black people to stay employed. So if these changes don't allow for the unemployment to increase as well, then our financial culture is going to crash. And then what?
Absolutely. And Brittany, you said, oh my gosh, wonderful things, but the
I'm
major thing,
sorry.
I think, because it's so many different things that I feel we need to address, and we're going to circle back. This is not the last time you guys are going to be with me, but I think we really have to focus in on the fact that there are so many conversations that have to be had outside of us, though. And I was
Yeah.
just saying this. One of the things that have to happen, and Senator Tim Kaine, shout out to Senator Tim Kaine in Virginia, he said at a press conference, he said to my white people, we gotta fix this system. Because they didn't create this, we created this. And I just wonder how many people disagree with him, because how can you create a system that oppresses yourself? That makes no sense. But somewhere, somehow, we've been taught that we created the system that oppresses us, right? And the interesting thing is that when I look at civil rights legislation, down through the years, and I put a couple of things out there, and I have to keep telling myself, we the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. But I have to tell myself, the framers of the Constitution did not look like any of us. So, if the 3/5 clause, because you're talking about voting, but what if the 3/5 clause is still in the Constitution, and what if it hasn't been eradicated? It hasn't been taken out, amendment maybe, but not removed. Can the system still use that? Can it be, 1996 again? I think it was 1996 when Al Gore and Brittany, you know where I'm going, and we had the recount in Florida. Because in '96 I was like 11, or was it 2000? It was one of them, but I was like 11 or 15, and I remember the recount, and I remember saying, "Mama, you think they're using the 3/5 clause to do this recount?" What do we do? How do we get other peers to understand? Because I get sick of hearing y'all out there talking about, I don't do politics. Yes, you do. All y'all out there in the independent industry, all y'all artists, Do y'all realize y'all politicking when y'all trying to get your music on the radio? When you trying to get interviews? When you trying to walk in labels and get your music heard? You politicking. So shut up about you don't do politics. And just tell the truth, shame the devil. You don't understand. Because you might not be able to read. And if you cannot read, ask your fellow brothers and sisters for help. I bet y'all don't even remember the poll tax. Do you know that back in the day, you had to pass a literacy test to vote? And y'all talking about y'all not gonna vote? You don't do politics? What? But do you even understand what you're saying? When you say you don't do politics, you're saying you don't do policy, which means you don't follow rules and regulations. Because let me break it down for you. The definition of politics is a study of policy. So what you might not do is participate in the political process, but you do politics. But what you need to understand is that in order for you to be a part of what's called the politico-administrative dichotomy, which means the study of politics, of policy, the administration, which is the development and the execution of policy, until you vote, you don't have a say in how we change this system. Like Brittany said, we have to get to the Supreme Court. We have to become local officials and state officials. But see, what happens is, what politics does is, the political process says, people like me definitely can't be on the front line because you can't buy me, right? So what happens is, we get somebody like President Obama that has been groomed and molded into what suits the culture, but what works for the system. Hello, somebody. Because see, a Lily Mae, a Tracy, and a Brittany suit the culture and go disband the system. But see, a President Obama was groomed, right? So if y'all don't understand what I'm saying, you better start reading between the lines, baby, and sit down with your elders. Because that's the other thing. We don't have dinner talks anymore. See, these are the things that we can do that have nothing to do with the outside world. Because I'm a firm believer that intraculturally, there are some things that we have to get back to, and that's the village. Outside forces cannot destroy our village, no matter how much welfare you put in the community to take black men out of the homes. The village is in the heart. The village is in the big mamas and the great grandmamas out here. The village is every last one of us. When we see a little child and they look like they need something from us, even if it's just a hello, sweetie, your hair looks good. What is the end gonna look like if we don't get it together? Tracy, I come to you for final thoughts.
Honestly, that's a conversation I was having with a friend. I was sitting at his house, I don't know, a week ago or so, and we were just talking about that. We were trying to figure that out ourselves, right? So, me and him having the same background and two different paths in a way, right? So we both come from the you like you said, you know my older sister. So we both come from the east end of Richmond, right in Fulton, right? And I love saying where I'm from. I'm sorry, but yeah, so right in Fulton, right? And CJ, that's my friend. I didn't mean to say his name, but whatever. So he ended up going off to college, right, up to ODU. He's a graduate. He did his thing. He came back to the hood with a degree, right? And And me, I went to college for like a year, and I went off and did some other stuff. I didn't get any trouble or anything, but I went off and did some other stuff. And I think that us having that conversation and kind of trying to figure it out, kind of how you said, sometimes that discrimination of not having this or not having that. Even my sister, she's on her way to getting a doctorate degree now, right? So still
Yep.
completely two different paths, but we've been able to do still be well rounded, I'll say. And I think that's the key, honestly, is just having different kinds of people in so many different kinds of places. As far as just like I said, my sister, she's straight out of Fulton, but she's getting ready to get a doctorate degree. She's a counselor for these young children out there, and she's
And
getting them in better places. What was that?
she's an awesome counselor. And you got to shout out, she's also a SG
Yes, yes, that too, yeah. Absolutely, she got a rep person, but definitely, so yeah, I think I just having different characters in different type of places, and even like myself, I got into the fitness community and to being an athlete and so on and blah 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 blah. So just kind of doing what I can and still bringing where I'm from and taking everywhere I can take it. And just certain friends that I have that did go off to college and now they're on their way to certain things as well, or just artists that I know or this and that. So wherever you kind of come from and wherever you're going to, I think that's the most important thing. So we do need more brothers and sisters that are in leadership positions, but we also need those guys that are down on the ground. I'd much rather see a black janitor than see somebody going to jail for a drug charge. So, that to me, so just having different characters in different places. I don't think I don't know the answers for the end. You know what I mean? I'm not sway, but I'm definitely on my way to finding as many answers as I can personally and giving out as much information as I can, listening and learning as much as I can. That's going to be a big thing. I know my age range, which is, I'm 24, 25. I'll even count 26 and 27 in my age range. But I know we definitely have to start listening. I think that's a big problem for us. We're getting ready to run the world, but we're not there just yet. We still got a few people ahead of us, so I think we need to listen. But at the same time, there are also the generation right under us, as you mentioned, Gen Z, I think it is. I don't know. We the last line of millennials. I know that, but yeah, the Gen Z or whatever it is, that's a tough case in some cases, right? So I got a little brother who's 17, 18. He's a great young dude. I try to preach at him as much as possible, but he doesn't even need it half the time. He's like telling me stuff that I don't even know. Okay, and I have but at the same time, I have plenty of other little partners out there from around the way that could use some guidance, and they don't always want to listen. I like what you said about kind of having people that have been in those spots before, and as she said as well, um, sometimes the young men don't want to listen to somebody that hasn't been in that spot. So that's why anytime I get a chance to rap it with somebody, even if it's just a few years younger than me, I'm gonna try to spit some kind of game because when I'm listening to somebody even that's a few years older than me, I'm trying to pick up some game. Each one teach one is the best way. That's the closest thing we got to. That's the closest thing I got to the answer right now. And
That's all right. Tracy, I'm so proud of you. Shout out to Tracy's sister, Christina. She is spectacular. Yes, she's a counselor and she really tries. She works hard on the East End. And I'm so glad that she came from the East End and she stayed on the East End. Shout out to all the teachers and staff at Howard Springs High School. I taught there. I will never ever teach in a West End of Richmond school. I love the East End. I salute the East End. I'll take a East End of Henrico school any day because I love the culture. Brittany, final thoughts, baby.
I just want to thank you honestly for like opening up the opportunity to kind of have more people have this discussion or just for them to have a resource to allow for us to speak, to maybe put some other oppositions in their mind to their current thoughts, to maybe get into a better place of solitude. I really do think that honestly, the best thing that we could do right now is to promote and to come together from Black business perspectives. And I'm not talking about just supporting them. I just want to give a shout out to my sister, Raven Paris. She's actually creating a directory for several Black businesses. There's a lot of apps that are out there. And I just really want to encourage people to honestly take the extra initiative to start supporting, more of the culture because that's like everything creates momentum and we want to maintain momentum and especially in the very like you speak of front lines, but I think that, like in the restaurant business, there's the front of the house and there's the back of the house. The front of the house is just as important as the back of the house. And I think that when we talk about the back of the house, that's like the conversations that are in our homes personally. Like I've seen some videos where parents are teaching their kids, or showing that, they have taught their kids that there is no such thing as color. You treat a man as a man, a human as a human, a woman as a woman, you respect them. I see a lot of videos of, parents trying to, ask kids like, hey, what do you see any differences between these two kids? And the kids are like, no. Well, that picture has a flower, this one doesn't. They see people. And I think that if we focus on that message of people seeing people, I think that the understanding of the Black Lives Matter can come to, I'll say a greater stance of fruition. I think that the other subsidies of that, are very important. I feel like they should all come under the one. So I feel like if you respect Black people, I feel like then you should just respect all people. If you respect all people, you should respect Black people. I don't feel as though there should be this division of race. Like I said, moving forward in June of 2020, and moving forward to a better culture, the system isn't going to just change because we want it to. It has to change as well within our communities and with our day-to-day actions as well. So I think that if we focus on what we can do right now in support of our community, I feel like, just like you spoke of that village, I think that that's a good start. And that's what we're looking for, because Generation Z is not playing. They've already said, we're not for the shits. You know what I'm saying? So, and I feel like it's that, and the millennials, we are the first of the, yo, that really happened. These niggas let that happen. We were the first of those, right? So we're like, I mean, it ain't enough of us, but we chilling, but let it happen though. And you see what the result is. Now it's 2020, and you have riots, you have police stations being burned down. You know what I mean? Like, and when I say riots, I'm talking about, rioting for justice. I'm not talking about those that are looting and those that are destroying properties that we're not, looking to target. I'm fully for violence if it is necessary. Just like Malcolm X said, I absolutely am. And I feel like in certain instances, it may be necessary in the future. And I feel as though our people need to prepare for that. I feel as though we need to be conscious of it, because it's not, this is real life. Like, a civil war is on the brink. And especially because I feel as though the coronavirus was a very great distraction to, I think, this election process. But I have heard so many different issues with election votes being counted this year in so many states. So I'm very concerned for the future. And that was the conversation that was being held with my sister. Shout out to her. She's an SG Row as well. Shout out to all the ladies shout out to everybody of the, I'll say the yeah, NPHC. So I definitely feel like um, we have the structure in terms to get it started. I don't think we have the structure for longevity. So let's focus on what we do have, so we can create a foundation. So then that way we can take it to the next level. You know what I mean? I don't know. Guys play video games. Like, I mean, you can't get to stage 2 without getting to stage 1. Ladies, you cannot. You know what I'm saying? Get the nails done without the acrylic. You know what I'm saying? Like, everything is a process. And like we talk about policy, let's create a policy within ourselves to getting a better understanding of how we can solidify our foundation to solidify the future, like, period.
Pooh. Period. Pooh. Wow. Y'all, this has been awesome. This has been awesome. And we are on the brink. We're not even at 8 o'clock, but I don't want to take it too far because this was awesome. Tracy and Brittany, thank you so much. Thank you so very much. You are spectacular. You are wonderful, and you will be back. So, guys, you heard it. You heard it from Gen Z and from another millennial outside of me. So, the question is, what actions can individuals, school systems, organizations, and communities take to change the historical pattern of white privilege, systemic racism, and the disproportionate oppression of minorities? Once again, guys, you've been rocking it out with us tonight on All Things Authentic, the multicultural revolution. I'm your girl, Lily Mae, hashtag the brown mermaid from the bottom of the sea. I will lead you to greatness. And as always, I strive to bring you joy, jewels, and justice.
Imagine a world where children run free. Doesn't matter the skin tone, doesn't matter the pedigree. A black child in a white neighborhood, playing free, no police checking where they